Right, welcome everybody. Hope everybody is well. It's Wednesday, the 26th of August. Yeah, lots to get through this morning. It's 8:04 a.m. So we're going to have a look into the London session. Obviously, I was traveling a bit yesterday, but I've actually been pretty happy. It's been pretty controlled this week. Nothing major. We had a nice steady day yesterday. Everything went our way in the morning, but nice and slow. So good, steady start to the week. Could this be our first all green month? We haven't had one yet, but obviously let's wait and see. We're doing pretty well. We've only got four more trading days left, so yeah, hopefully should be a good one. Maybe it doesn't count as an all green month because obviously I left those open. So yeah, who knows? I'm actually happy. So August is historically a tricky month to trade. Yeah, we've obviously got to be. We've always got to be aware of this and got to be happy. So yesterday, let's obviously have a look through because I didn't have a chance to go through it with you. So everything come out pretty much as expected. Even consumer confidence. Yes, it was a little bit lower, but it's within the realm of everyone's pretty happy. Homes, yes, that's obviously dropped, but obviously I think the expectation of homes being hit a bit harder was always going to was always going to happen. In times like this, normally people don't tend to move house. That's obviously that's going to be expected. Um, Apart from that though, not a lot else. Let's wait and see. We've had very hawkish RBA, so I'm going to look into that a little bit later. If we just flick through and we compared, say, Euro compared to Aussie, Aussie is flying, absolutely flying. I don't know if it's got that much more momentum. We're currently challenging these highs, but I was only looking to buy this morning, but actually I held off. So I only wanted to enter this morning, and obviously we'll go through that in a minute. Um, Today we've got obviously inflation data, we got GDP, expected to drop slightly. Drop quite a lot actually, 0.6%. Got durable goods month on month. Lots of obviously, yeah, GDP and PC, and so it's going to be a big swinger. So what I'm probably going to do this afternoon is I'll probably wait until about three, to obviously trade the afternoon. So I want this to kind of clear. I want it to kind of happen, and then obviously we can hop off the back of it, afterwards. So that's obviously what I am, gonna try and do today. I'm happy with where our positions are. We got the dollar kind of ranging now around this 99. I do think it kind of needs, some a bit of a tailwind. All right, it needs a bit of a tailwind here, So we obviously want, yeah, something to kind of happen. Something to happen. So I think if data comes out good, we could be angling towards this 99,500. Otherwise, yes, we're going to be challenging these lows here. So let's wait and see what happens here. Let's wait and see. Hopefully we can kind of see we can't look we can't guess. It is what it is. We've had one of the main things that's happened. There's been positive talks, and that's why we're seeing de-escalation. Oil here. Look at this, right back down from 85. This has happened quick as well. Positive talks back down to this 80. Obviously, remember once we breach 80, we're then back into that, that proper de-escalation, speeches. But it's been really interesting how quickly this, has dropped. If we look at how kind of slowly it kind of climbed up, but obviously look at this, one, two, three candles, bang, below 81. It's engulfed all of this. So, could that be that is quite, positive talks that they are having? We've got obviously US 100 had a bit of a recovery yesterday. SPX had a bit of a recovery, and US 30 starting to climb back up again. That's obviously, increasing a bit of risk appetite. Yields recovering from yesterday. Obviously, de-escalation is going to hurt yields as well, but, nice, obviously, recovery from them so far today. Markets gapped up. Are we going to have something, similar where we, see something like this, and then we have this nice climb here? So let's wait and see what happens here. Um, in regards to everything else, we're going to have to go through these one by one. Let's just check the chat. Yeah, we've got Richard. 3 more trading days as the 31st is a bank holiday. Yeah, yes and no. We can always glance our eyes over it, but obviously, yes, we're going to have to trade with a lower liquidity. So, we're going to have to make sure that we are aware of, that, and obviously what is happening. So like I mentioned with the dollar here, kind of struggling at the moment. We're kind of in this consolidation here, where we can't break below and we can't break above. We've been there since Monday morning. It's been kind of ranging. So that is obviously one thing to kind of keep highlighted. Remember, we're obviously not going to be properly bullish on the dollar until we kind of breach this 99,500 in my opinion, because obviously that's the last kind of real lower high. So let's wait and see. Like I mentioned, Aussie was one that I was looking at. Um, making a really, really, nice trend to the upside here. However, we're obviously at highs of when it like end of May, so, and there was a lot of support here, or sorry, resistance here. So I kind of want this to kind of pass, through this if we're going to look to buy, and then we can kind of target these highs here. But obviously, we're going to have to wait and see. Pound, happy with obviously how we're laying out. We've got, loads of consolidation here. Just want this to breach up, tap us, potentially tap these highs, and then continue to the downside here. That's what I'm kind of looking for here on um, pound. We've played it really, really, really well so far this week. So hopefully we're going to continue to do that. Euro, same. Just obviously approaching these highs. I think it's going to take a lot to break it, and I do think we're going to be kind of very, very, similar. We're going to be stuck in this kind of range here, until, well, during London 100%. So let's obviously wait and see what happens here. Um, what else we got here? USD JPY. Obviously, yields dropping. I was surprised this didn't have a bigger move yesterday. Because obviously, yen and yields, 100%. If you get yield weakness, yen should drop, but it didn't. It didn't drop. Or sorry, USD JPY should drop. It didn't drop as much as expected, which is interesting. Does that mean that the dollar is, strengthening up here? So yes, yen is on top of everything. You can see obviously what I was mentioning about Aussie. It's on top of everything apart from Aussie. Um, but it's not kind of taken over, considering where kind of yields are. So have yields been had a bit of a short term, fall, and they're going to gradually make this ground up. That's obviously going to give the US dollar a little bit of a tailwind, a little bit of confidence, but let's wait and see. Gold, I stayed away from yesterday. Um, I wasn't really yeah, I didn't really like where it was. If we look at it on a session time frame, we obviously had Asia high and low, London small movement, New York kind of bounced off it. Asia is quite small, so normally my obviously ideal kind of setup would be a smaller Asia, quite a big London. And then we can kind of guarantee that it's going to trade within this range here. So that's obviously what I'm going to be looking for a bit later on. Yeah, so gold, it's just holding at these highs here. If we were to clear it, we might as well mark these up because I'm going to use them later on. So if we do dailies in blue, and then I'll carry on remembering then. So previous daily high, previous daily low. And then if we go down to an 8 hour, we want to do Asia high, Asia low here as well. So we just do that in green and another one here. So currently kind of te testing Asia, but holding. Asia is quite small, and obviously London is, smushed in it. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see what happens here. Are we going to see a bit of a tail off? But like I'd said, it's probably going to be a bit of a tricky day to trade. What I would like to see is London probably tailing and tapping in the previous daily high or the previous daily low, and then it'll be quite easy to trade this afternoon because I don't think it's going to push much higher. I don't think there's going to be enough gold buyers at this price to obviously push it higher. I do think we are due, a gold drop potentially down into this area here, before we get that next kind of influx. But obviously, if we've got a bit of de-escalation, that's going to obviously, take a bit of the risk element because we do have, remember, money is made in, stock market, companies. Gold is a hedging asset. All right. So if we've got de-escalation or, higher probability of de-escalation, then obviously they're going to want to risk a bit more of their, money because obviously the risk appetite in the market is a bit higher. So that's obviously one thing to be aware of, and obviously it's one thing to obviously make sure that, yeah, we play this correctly. So yeah, let's wait and see what happens here. But I'm expecting dollar potentially to kind of drift to the downside. So that's going to drag, obviously, sorry, gold to drift to the downside. That's my expectation. Um, Right, let's have a look at some of these here. Alex, could you please have a look at NZD? Yep. How about gold? You got to be a bit patient. I've just been through gold. Alex, when data comes out as expected, how do you think that this could affect the DXY? What you've got to always remember, and I've been over this. This forecast here, all right, is always what's going to be priced in, all right? So obviously anything better than expected, right, is gonna help the US dollar. Anything worse than expected is gonna affect the US dollar. However, we got a bit of a flip switch here that no one can obviously answer. Is if everything's coming out worse, we could also have that benefiting the dollar. So it's a really really hard one to kind of gauge this morning because because obviously if data continues to come out bad, it could obviously push the Federal Reserve into increasing interest rates, as opposed to obviously holding. So that obviously in turn as well can obviously boost the US dollar. So all we're trying to gauge here is how markets are going to react to this news that's obviously happening. Um, NZD, I'll look at in a minute. Is there buying exhaustion? Right. I wouldn't class this as buying exhaustion on gold. You got to remember what gold is, all right? Gold is a hedging asset in times of, when times are hard, they buy gold to hedge against their, stocks. That is why we look at the, stock market. We don't need to individually look at the, stock market. We look at the stock market as a whole, all right, to identify risk appetite. And if the stock market is slowly pumping, that means they're allocating, more of their money towards equities as opposed to, you know, holding it in a, safe haven. All right. So that's, stock markets obviously made a bit of a recovery yesterday. What does obviously gold do yesterday? Has a bit of an indecisive day. All right, so you've also got to be aware. Is it worth anyone increasing their hedging position here, or is it going to be less risk for them to kind of hold till obviously gold drops down slightly, especially obviously with de-escalation. I would say these are quite positive talks on the back of oil dropping. So. You've got to look at gold and obviously understand why it's going to do what it's going to do, and I think that's what lots of people don't really understand. It's a hedging asset, all right, and it's driven by the minority of the majority, money, all right, and so you've got to I try and put yourselves in their shoes. Right, we've got really positive talks. Ukraine, Russia's gone a bit quiet. We've got obviously, yields dropping. We've got dollar kind of holding. So dollar's kind of, stabilized. All right, so yeah, yeah, yes, we can see the overall risk in equities is increasing, so obviously everyone's starting to layer a little bit more, money in. Remember, we obviously mentioned Nvidia on Sunday night. So obviously that is one thing to be aware of is that, yeah, if obviously their data comes out good, then that's going to give the stock market a bit of a tailwind too. So we could wake up tomorrow and gold could be trading a lot lower. So that's obviously what we've got to kind of think about. So if you obviously collaborate all that information in, and if you had 1 billion and you've got some great stock picks here, but then you've got gold here, which you're obviously using to kind of hedge these stock picks here. Are you going to increase this hedging position right now with all of this happening? Probably not. You're going to probably want to unwind it a bit and put some of this in here because this is going to make us more. So, try and obviously put yourself in their, shoes. Right, let's do NZD quickly. NZD, it's no different to anything else, really. It doesn't, I mean, NZD doesn't really interest me most of the time here. You've got to obviously put, I guess you'd put the previous monthly low here. Let's make this one. Um, sorry, high. I'm going to make that yellow because it's not very clear on red. And then you could argue it's bouncing off this level here, which is, let's have a look here. Weekly, we're kind of just going, sideways here. All right, nothing really special. Nothing's happening. I mean, you could mark this as a target area if that breaks. You could mark this as your target area. Um, hmm, like I said, it doesn't really interest me. I'd probably have two target areas here. You could do something like this, maybe potentially. There we go. dailies, like I said, this is obviously holding well. Look how much ground we've already engulfed yesterday. But obviously we are yes trailing up to the upside here. I think that there's a lot pushing this down into 58966. But obviously this has to break here. So I'll be looking at this probably on a bit of a 2 hour here. What I would probably do is highlight this area here. All right. So we ideally, if this was to break, we'd want to see something like this happen down into this area here. All right. Whereas if this holds, there's probably more cleaner to be to the downside. It's starting to kind of slow. You could argue that there's a head and shoulders here, but but then it's also moved quite a lot already, and obviously you have to look at the daily range on this thing too. We've already probably moved like we did yesterday and the day before. So, I mean, you're talking a maximum, well, not a maximum, but probably if we average the bigger day to be safer, we're then looking at right today. It's already moved this. It's not got that much more to kind of moved. So I would have this, lined up. Obviously, if this holds, yes, you can do the opposite. You can obviously take this in here, but you also want to be aware with this trade here. You want to be aware that we've already broken through this, low. So technically, we might find something if we put a little Fibonacci on this. If we do start to rise, you've also then got to be aware of like this area here. Um, because this could, hold. So yeah, I would say for me the safest trade would be this one here, but obviously you got to wait for it to break. All right. So yeah. Um, yeah. Right. Right. Cool. Cool. I'm gonna end this here. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. I hope everyone has a great Wednesday, and yeah, let's make sure that we smash it again. Have a good one, team. Have a good one.